In the name of God, the most merciful, the most compassionate. These audio sessions are derived from my book, Unity of Divine Revelations. Throughout history, divine revelations has played a central role in shaping beliefs, guiding societies, and defining moral systems. Yet, paradoxically, it has also been associated at times with division, conflict, and misunderstanding. Religious traditions that at their core call for truth, justice, and compassion have often been interpreted in ways that emphasize difference over unity, disagreement over understanding, and conflict over cooperation. This raises an important question. If revelations come from one source, why has it so often been a cause of division? Well, part of the answer lies not in the message itself, but in how it has been understood, transmitted, and applied across time. As societies evolved, interpretations expanded, context changed, language shifted, and in some cases, the original clarity of the message became layered with assumptions, debates, and competing perspectives. At times, these differences were used not to deepen understanding, but to assert superiority, justify conflict, or divide communities. Yet, when we step back from these historical developments and look carefully at the foundations of revelation itself from the original sources, a different picture begins to emerge. A picture not of contradiction, but of continuity. Not of fragmentation, but of coherence. The Qur'an presents a principle that is both simple and profound. It states, "O mankind, we created you from a male and a female, and made you into peoples and the tribes, so that you may come to know one another." Not to oppose one another, not to dominate one another, but to know one another. Difference in this respect is not a flaw in human existence. It is part of its design, and diversity of language, culture, and even historical experience is not meant to divide humanity, but to create the conditions for cooperation, learning, and mutual recognition. If this principle is applied to revelation itself, then the existence of multiple prophetic traditions does not necessarily imply contradiction. Indeed, It may point to something deeper, a continuous process in which the same core truths are expressed, clarified, and developed across different times, places, and communities. This audiobook is an invitation to explore that possibility. It does not approach revelations as a set of isolated messages, nor as competing claims, but as a unified and unfolding system of guidance. Rather than comparing religions in a controversial or argumentative way, this work takes a different path. It focuses on core themes that appear consistency across revelation. Themes such as the nature of God, the purpose of human existence, moral responsibility, justice and social order, and ultimate destiny of human beings. These themes are then traced across major stages of revelation. How were they delivered? And in early traditions, the message of Abraham, to the structured law of Moses, to the spiritual teachings of Jesus, and finally to the comprehensive articulation found in the Qur'an. The central idea is not that revelation changes in its essence, but that it develops in its expression. Early stages may present the truths in symbolic or descriptive forms. Later stages clarify, organize, and expand on them until they reach a point of integration where beliefs, ethics, and social guidance come together into a coherent whole. In this way, what may appear at first glance as difference can instead be understood as stages of development. And what has often been treated as contradiction may in fact reflect progression. This perspective does not deny that conflicts have existed, nor does it ignore the differences between traditions. But it suggests that many of these conflicts arise not from the original message itself, but from how it has been interpreted, adapted, and sometimes misused. When revelation is separated from its broader context, when the themes are taken in isolation, or when later interpretations are treated as original foundations, misunderstanding becomes almost inevitable. But when we step back and examine these tables are selected examples of verses in the different stages of revelation that show how the core themes are present in each one of them. Details about commonalities and extensive list of similar verses can be found in my book, Unity of the Divine Revelations, published on Amazon in Arabic and English. A deeper question usually arises. If revelation is indeed a unified and continuous process, why was it not presented in its complete and final form from the very beginning? Why not deliver the full, perfected guidance at once, leaving no room for misunderstanding, no space for divergence, and no history of conflict? This question touches the heart of how revelation relates to human development, because guidance does not exist in isolation. It is received, understood, and lived by human beings within specific societies at particular moments in history. Human understanding itself develops over time. Early communities differ from later ones in structure, knowledge, complexity, and readiness. A message that is complete in its final form may not be fully grasped or sustainably applied in its earliest stages. This is noticeable also in communicating the last comprehensive message. Prophet Muhammad delivered the message at intervals during 23 years, paced to circumstances, environment, and difficulty of absorbing all the concepts included about creation of the universe, the human self, the opposition to tyranny, to stubbornness and resistance of those in power, and how to implement the teachings in the early established state. In this light, revelation can be understood not only as information, but as guidance aligned with the human capacity. It unfolds in a way that corresponds to the maturity of societies, the development of moral awareness, and the evolving structure of human civilization. What appears as a gradual development may in fact reflect deliberate progression, not a limitation in the message, but a consideration of the recipient. And who knows the human being nature better than the Creator? Thus, He delivered the messages at stages so humans can absorb, understand, and implement. Across history, we observe a pattern. Foundational truths are introduced early. Then they are clarified. Then later they are structured, then refined, until they reach a stage where they can be integrated into complete and balanced system. This does not eliminate the possibility of misunderstanding, because human interpretation remains part of the process. But it suggests that the existence of stages in revelation is not a flaw in divine guidance. Seen from this perspective, the diversity of expressions across revelations is not a sign of inconsistency, but of powerful development and gradual delivery. In the sessions that follow, we will explore groups of related themes, examining how they emerge in early traditions, how they develop across prophetic history, and how they are brought together into a unified system. By doing so, we aim to move beyond fragmentation and toward a deeper understanding of revelation as a coherent and purposeful whole. Thank you for listening.